Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers sleeping in public, refusal to identify, and trespassing, and is brought to us by Felipe Hemming's channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. On January 16, 2017, officers from the Guntersville Police Department responded to a 911 call about a woman sleeping in her car at a public park in Guntersville, Alabama, and approached local resident Christy Landry's vehicle to investigate. The available body cam footage begins a few minutes into the interaction and does not show the officer's initial approach.
You're required to give me your ID when I ask for it, okay? Under Title 15.
Can you give me I am taking a nap because I'm off of work right now. I live in town.
Okay, would you
I'm not
Ma'am, I'm talking. Would you like to give me your ID or go to jail?
No.
You don't want to give me your ID?
I'm not going to give you my ID.
Okay, well, come on. Put your shoes on.
No.
Come on.
No.
Yes.
You are not getting me out of my car.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
You are not.
Don't resist me.
No. Why
Listen
is
to
he
me.
doing this?
Listen to me.
Are you about to break my elbow?
You listen to me, okay? I've asked you for your ID. You've told me no.
Would you talk to me? I'm telling you who I am. It doesn't matter what my card says.
Okay, give me your ID.
Is this how y'all treat people?
We have the right to identify you, okay? There's people been calling.
Well, they've been calling. I've been here for.
If you'll let me
I'm taking my lunch break.
You let me explain to you what we got the call on and why we're starting to investigate this, okay? Can you let me just explain?
Yeah, sure.
People have called and said that you've been laying in this car for 4 hours.
4 hours?
Listen to me. We don't know anything until we get here, identify you, and see if everything's okay. This officer's asked for your identification. You're supposed to.
I'm sitting here.
You're supposed to provide that.
I'm not supposed to provide that because I'm sitting in my property. Okay.
You're on city property.
Okay, I am a part of the city too.
Ma'am, why are you?
You just woke me up.
Right.
What do you expect?
We didn't know that you've been here asleep for 4 hours or 4 minutes or 4 seconds. It doesn't matter.
I was listening to Sean Hannity for about 15 minutes, then I went to sleep.
Do you want to give us
I
ID?
not sleep. No, I don't. I don't want to give you my ID.
You're supposed to identify yourself. He's asked you for identification. He's asked you for identification.
What if I'm walking? Would you approach me and tell me that that's strange?
If something got called in that you were acting strange, then yes, we would have to investigate.
I'm strangely sleeping in my car.
Ma'am, we have to investigate.
I can be here till after sunset. I know this.
Exactly. And now that you've been asked to identify yourself, we need you to identify yourself.
Who are you?
Provide us. I'm Officer Young with Guntersville Police Department.
So I have to identify myself because I'm sleeping in my car.
The officers inform Ms. Landry that she needs to identify herself because she is sleeping in her car and they need to investigate the 911 call. According to the city loitering statute, which is found in section 13-92 of the Guntersville Code of Ordinances, quote, "It shall be unlawful for any person to loiter, loaf, wander, stand, or remain idle, either alone or in consort with others in a public place, including a public park, for any unlawful purpose or for any purpose other than the intended use of the facility or public place in which the person is located." While it is potentially arguable that an individual sleeping in a vehicle is not the intended use of the park, a court would likely conclude that applying this statute to Ms. Landry for sleeping in her car would be unconstitutional. In the 1993 case of Horn versus City of Montgomery, the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals invalidated a city ordinance that made it unlawful for a person to sleep in a vehicle parked on a public street, avenue, or alley. In reaching this conclusion, the court argued that, quote, "Numerous situations could arise that would be essentially innocent, such as a driver pulling over to the curb and parking because he was too sleepy, too ill, or too tired to drive. The arresting officer recognized this possibility and admitted that he and other officers believed that they were free to decide whether to enforce the ordinance in those cases. The vagueness of the ordinance encourages arbitrary and discriminatory enforcement. The court also concluded that the ordinance failed to give a person of ordinary intelligence fair notice that their contemplated conduct is forbidden. However, even if the officers did have a reasonable suspicion that Ms. Landry was committing a crime, Alabama's Stop and Identify statute would not allow them to demand her identification. Under Section 15-5-30 of the Alabama Code, police officers may, quote, "stop any person abroad in a public place whom he reasonably suspects is committing, has committed, or is about to commit a felony or other public offense, and may demand of him his name, address, and an explanation of his actions." In addition to the fact that the officers most likely did not have the reasonable suspicion necessary to detain Ms. Landry under this statute, the law only authorized the officers to demand that she provide her name and address, and not to demand that she hand over her ID.
Okay, let me talk to her just a second. What's your first name?
My name is Christy.
Okay, Christy, I'm Lieutenant Case. Okay, here's the deal. We've got a call on you, okay? I don't know how they do things in the state of Louisiana.
When I'm sleeping.
Listen, okay, if you're sleeping in the parks, we have a city ordinance against it. So here's what I'm telling you, okay? We're gonna ID who you are. If you fail to ID who you are, we're gonna place you under arrest, okay? So I mean, that's just as simple as it comes. Okay, I'm being real polite to you. You haven't been unpolite to me. I'm just telling you, we've got to call who you own you on a welfare check. Okay, we have a city ordinance against loitering in the parks. If you're sleeping in your vehicle in the parks, it's loitering. It's a city ordinance. We have a right to issue a citation for that. All right. Like I said, you may be from Louisiana. Laws may be different. But right now, you're in Guntersville, Alabama.
If somebody walked up to my car,
okay, here's the thing. You're in a city park.
I would see that they're sleeping and I'd leave them.
No, ma'am. We have a city ordinance against that.
I would have been out there sleeping. Is that against the law?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Well,
it's
awake is not against the law.
Loitering in the parks, yes, ma'am. Here's the thing that's about to happen.
Who called?
You can subpoena that through the court. You're about to be booked under.
I can subpoena that through the court.
You're about to be booked under Jane Doe. Okay.
Oh, he wants to book me before I find anything else out.
So it's your options. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Either provide ID, give us your name and birthday.
What? Don't you understand?
No, ma'am.
Investigating.
Right. This is part of our investigation.
Instead of getting upset at me because I'm
not getting upset with you.
I still have a little bit of time before I have to go home.
No, ma'am. Here's what's about to happen. You're about to be placed under arrest. Your car's going to be impounded. You're going to be booked under Jane Doe. We're going to send your fingerprints off to the FBI. It could take 30, 60, 90 days to come back. You'll be in jail and no bond until then. So it's your option, man. Like I said, I've been real polite to you. That's all I'm asking for you. Your ID or your name and date of birth. Nothing on you, then we'll leave.
Lieutenant Case claims that if Ms. Landry does not surrender her ID, then they will book her into jail as a Jane Doe and keep her there for up to 90 days without bond until they can get her fingerprints back from the FBI. However, the process he describes does not make logical sense or comply with Alabama law. First, if Ms. Landry was arrested, she could be searched, and if she had her driver's license or another form of identification on her person, the officers could use that to identify her immediately. If she did not have any identifying information on her, the officers could book her as a Jane Doe, but they would immediately start an investigation process to determine her name. The license plate on her vehicle would likely be the starting point, but officers can also use photograph and fingerprint databases, as well as facial recognition software to identify a John or Jane Doe. Additionally, individuals generally cannot be held in jail indefinitely while the government attempts to identify them. If an individual is arrested without a warrant, Rule 4.3 of the Alabama Rules of Criminal Procedure requires a judge or magistrate to determine whether probable cause exists to believe that the defendant committed the charged offense, quote, without undue delay, and in no event later than 48 hours after arrest. If probable cause is not determined within this time frame, the arrested individual must be released on bond or personal recognizance unless the offense is not bailable. If the judge or magistrate finds there is probable cause, a complaint will be filed, and the arrested person will make their initial appearance in court. Rule 4.4 of the Alabama Rules of Criminal Procedure states that, quote, at a defendant's initial appearance, the judge shall ascertain the defendant's true name, and, if necessary, amend the formal charges to reflect the defendant's true name. At this point of the process, if Ms. Landry still refused to provide her name, and the officers had somehow been unsuccessful in their attempts to identify her, she could be continued to be detained until she complied with the judge or magistrate's order to provide her name. However, it is nearly impossible to imagine a situation where this would occur. Although there are no reasonable circumstances under which Ms. Landry could be held for 90 days, she surrendered her ID after Lieutenant Case threatened to hold her until she was identified.
216, 1027, Alabama.
I just wish y'all would just listen.
I did listen to you, ma'am. I did listen to you, ma'am, and I've explained.
He took me by the arm, Mr. Ford.
You're lucky you're already under arrest, ma'am.
Why would I be under arrest?
For obstruction of governmental operations.
Obstruction? Y'all bothered me.
No, ma'am, we responded to a call out here.
From here on out, I need to be able to sleep in my car when I need to.
You're also going to be trespassed from all Guntersville City Parks today, okay?
That you guys
no, ma'am.
are pushing it.
No, ma'am, I'm not. I have a right to trespass anybody from our city park.
Why are you going to trespass me?
Because
I'm in my car.
Doesn't matter. I have a right to do that. Just like if you own a business.
Out of spite? Aren't you on... Good Lord, really? I just want a real investigation, not sleeping with my dang Kleenex right here, my plate of food that I had earlier.
Okay.
I mean, it's obvious that I'm freaking picnicking.
Well, we don't know if you're passed out drunk or if you're passed out high or you're what. It doesn't matter.
That.
Exactly. So is she current negative? Okay. Y'all got anything else from her or anything?
She just needs to leave.
Okay. You need to leave the parks and not return, okay? If you return back, you'll be placed under arrest for criminal trespass.
What are you talking about?
You're being trespassed from all Guntersville City Parks. Have a good day.
Here, Lieutenant Case informs Ms. Landry that if she returns to the park, she will be arrested for trespassing, and that she is being trespassed from all Guntersville City Parks. Section 13A-7-4 of the Alabama Code states that, quote, a person is guilty of criminal trespass in the third degree when he knowingly enters or remains unlawfully in or upon premises. And Section 13A-7-1 clarifies that the term premises includes, quote, any real property. Section 13A-7-1 also states that an individual enters or remains lawfully in or upon premises when, quote, he is not licensed, invited, or privileged to do so. A person who enters or remains in or upon premises which are at the time open to the public does so with license and privilege, unless he defies a lawful order not to enter or remain, personally communicated to him by the owner of such premises or other authorized person. Therefore, Ms. Landry could only be convicted of trespassing for returning to a Guntersville public park if Lieutenant Case was legally authorized to order individuals not to enter city parks. While police officers are generally not within their authority to trespass individuals from premises without specific authorization from the owner, it is possible that the Guntersville Police Department has been authorized by the city to trespass individuals from parks. However, banning Ms. Landry from all city parks also raises serious constitutional concerns, as public parks have long been considered quintessential public forums that have, quote, immemorially been held in trust for the use of the public, and, time out of mind, have been used for purposes of assembly, communicating thoughts between citizens, and discussing public questions, as the Supreme Court explained in the 1983 case of Perry Education Association versus Perry Local Educators Association. In this case, the court recognized that individuals have a, quote, right of access to public property, and that, quote, in a public forum, by definition, all parties have a constitutional right of access, and the state must demonstrate compelling reasons for restricting access to a single class of speakers, a single viewpoint, or a single subject. Although Ms. Landry was not necessarily banned from the parks for speech-related reasons, it seems more than reasonable to conclude that her protests to the officer's demands contributed to both her arrest and the decision to trespass her. And even if the trespass order had nothing to do with her speech, there are serious constitutional concerns involved in indefinitely denying Ms. Landry her right of access to the public parks for simply sleeping in her car.
No, I'm not.
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Give me that in writing.
I don't have to, ma'am. It's on video.
Give me that in writing.
Have a good day, ma'am. You've been told, please leave.
What is your name again?
It's Lieutenant Case. Please leave, or you're going to be placed under arrest. Lieutenant Case.
Lieutenant Case?
Leave, or you're going to be placed under arrest, ma'am.
See,
Leave the parks.
y'all are just upset now.
I'm not upset by anything, ma'am.
Lieutenant Case.
You're lucky you're not already going. I tell you what, y'all want to go ahead and just take her for the obstruction anyway?
Yeah. Stop, you're under arrest.
After she was arrested, Ms. Landry was charged with obstruction of justice, criminal trespass, resisting arrest, and disorderly conduct. Her father, Buddy Caldwell, who served as Louisiana's Attorney General from 2008 to 2016, publicly criticized the charges filed against Ms. Landry in a local news story, arguing that the charges should be thrown out. Although many have speculated that Ms. Landry received an undisclosed settlement from a lawsuit against the department, the final outcome of the criminal charges is unknown, as a court record search did not return any cases associated with her name. Overall, the Guntersville officers get an F for unnecessarily escalating a welfare check into a criminal investigation, displaying a fundamental misunderstanding of reasonable suspicion and Alabama's identification laws, and for needlessly arresting Ms. Landry because of her attitude. The intent of loitering statutes is to discourage individuals from congregating in certain areas in a manner that restricts or hinders the use of some public utility or facility, and it is difficult to understand what legitimate law enforcement purpose was to be served beyond ensuring that Ms. Landry wasn't in need of medical attention. This interaction could have ended peacefully and productively the moment the officers were able to ascertain that Ms. Landry was medically stable and not a danger to herself or others. But, as seen on many episodes of ATA, the Guntersville officers refused to allow Ms. Landry to leave without supplying her identification, despite having very little evidence of criminal activity. The officers also failed to employ real de-escalation techniques and allowed Ms. Landry's emotionally charged banter dictate the outcome of the encounter. There are many questions to be raised regarding the conduct of the Guntersville officers, and there are equally as many questions to be raised regarding the constitutionality of Gunterville's loitering code and similar laws all over the country. This interaction highlights how easily a loitering statute can be arbitrarily enforced and offer members of law enforcement an avenue for circumventing First and Fourth Amendment protections. Ms. Landry gets a B, because although she rightfully challenged the legitimacy of this stop, she failed to invoke her right to remain silent, allowed her emotions to dictate her conduct, and maintained a hostile and confrontational attitude throughout the encounter. Ms. Landry was well within her rights to engage in a challenging debate with the officers about the legality of sleeping in a park or failing to show ID. However, Ms. Landry's argumentative rants did nothing to help her avoid being arrested, and only served to offer the officers an opportunity to use her words against her later in court. It is clear that Ms. Landry's emotions got the better of her during this interaction, and that's reasonable considering that she was woken up to being accused of a crime. While I do commend Ms. Landry for remaining vigilant about her rights, I would caution her to tame her passion and remain silent in future encounters. Be sure to give your support to Felipe Hemming's channel for posting this story to YouTube. You can find a link in the description below. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out my second channel for even more police interaction content.